What is up, guys? We're back with more picks and predictions. This weekend, we have a banger card. We got UFC 313 back in Las Vegas. The main event is Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. This is the fight that, everybody's been kind of waiting for Alex Pereira. We know his dominance, but, there's always the caveat that he's been fighting people that just primarily strike. This weekend, we're going to find out what Alex Pereira is made of against Magomed Ankalaev, who does have that wrestling threat as well. The co-main, we got Justin Gaethje versus a short notice replacement and Rafael Fiziev. So banger co-main. We got a bunch of banger fights on this card. The prelims are pretty good too. And yeah, let's move into the recap of UFC Vegas 103 and then hop into the picks and predictions for this weekend. All right, so for UFC Vegas 103, we did decent on the betting side. Just kind of had the units in the wrong place for this one. We went 3 for 5 on bets. So, one more than we lost, but the issue was with the units kind of being stuck on Esteban Ribovic, William Gomes, and Chepi Mariscal. Obviously, Chepi came through. William Gomes, the reason why I was super confident in William Gomes was simply because his last matchup was against Joanderson Brito, who, was just more proven, shown much more than Haider Amil in his, UFC career so far. And Haider Amil has a very similar style to Joanderson Brito, that berserker style of just like coming at you. And William Gomes seemed to handle Joanderson Brito very well in that matchup, being able to, slow the pace down, get some takedowns involved, and just kind of control the fight a little bit better. Then in this matchup, he goes in there, he wins round 1, he kind of does that, but then in round 2, as he's fading a bit, he starts throwing like a bunch of spinning elbows and stuff like that. Like, I've never seen him do that. So he kind of just fully abandoned the game plan, which in his career I've literally never seen him do, which is just kind of annoying. I just realistically couldn't predict that going into it. The Ribovic one, I personally think Ribovic won rounds 2 and 3. Obviously at that point the parlay was dead because of William Gomes anyway, so yeah, take that as you will. But the other 3 bets we had that did hit, we had Cody Brundage money line. I think it was pretty consensus between the community that he shouldn't have been an underdog in that matchup. Ramazan Temirov performed really well, beats Charles Johnson, and that's a great win for Temirov. 2 fights into his UFC career, getting a win on Charles Johnson is pretty big. And then the other one, Manel Kape's money line, and then the fight time over 9.5 minutes. Took a pretty conservative fight time. I thought the fight would go over. Obviously, it did end up ending early in the 3rd round, so that's something to note. But fight time over hits, the Kape money line hits, down a little bit because the units were in the wrong place, but overall I feel like I had the right idea for UFC Vegas 103. All right, so they put this opener together pretty recently, as both these fighters kind of had some fights fall out for them. Chris Gutierrez, I think he was supposed to fight Jean Matsumoto. Obviously Jean Matsumoto got moved onto that card to fight Rob Font, and then John Castaneda was supposed to fight last weekend against Douglas Silva de Andrade, but I think he wasn't medically cleared after the weight cut or something like that. So, in this fight, I think I got to go with Chris Gutierrez. I think, the double weight cut for John Castaneda is going to be something interesting because he did cut some weight last week. Now he's going to come back in and cut some weight again this week. I don't think that's going to be the best for him. After that, I think that, Chris Gutierrez, he's got some better wins than John Castaneda here. I think he's got better kicks as well. I think he definitely put in work there. So I just feel like, Chris Gutierrez is going to have the more technical striking in this matchup. And I think he's just going to come down to him kind of just like outpointing John Castaneda to a decision in this match. I think a lot of the kicks will help in the outpointing. And yeah, I kind of see him just winning all 3 rounds 30-27 on John Castaneda. The double weight cut also, I don't love that. And yeah, both these guys just kind of put together. And Chris Gutierrez, training for Jean Matsumoto, who was, pretty hyped up prospect. So definitely probably training hard to kind of like put a stop to that hype train, get some respect on his name for, stalling down a prospect like Jean Matsumoto, though. And yeah, I just feel like he's going to be pretty ready for Sexy Mexi here. So yeah, Chris Gutierrez is going to be the first pick. All right, up next we got Ozzy Diaz versus Jordon Santos. Jordon Santos making his UFC debut. Ozzy Diaz is trying to get his first win in the UFC here. He's coming off his debut loss to Min Yang Zhang, but that was in light heavyweight. He's now in his regular weight class, which is middleweight. So yeah, this fight's going to kind of be at 185 for him. Jordon Santos won in his Contender Series fight, and you'll see that he's 10-1, but you'll see tons of decisions in there, so he's not particularly dangerous. And I don't think Ozzy Diaz is particularly chinny. I think the people who've chinned him do have like insane power. Like Ming Yang Zhang, he's getting knockout after knockout. Before that, he got chinned by Joe Pyfer, who's known to have insane power. So I don't think Ozzy Diaz is particularly chinny. Obviously, he can get chinned, but those guys can chin anyone. So yeah, I wouldn't be too worried, especially with someone like Jordon Santos, where you don't see a ton of knockouts in his record. His power is not like anything crazy, kind of like what you see Ozzy Diaz being up against. But nonetheless, I feel like the line for this fight is pretty interesting. I don't think that Jordon Santos should be a moderate favorite. I think this should be basically pick him. It's going to be really hard to tell, and I think the fight's going to get pretty sloppy. I think that maybe early on, Jordan Santos might do well, but I think the second Ozzy Diaz kind of like learns that, okay, this is the power he has, and that power is probably not going to knock him out. I think at that point, Ozzy Diaz can just be a bigger dog than Jordan Santos. I think that's the one thing I've seen, and I think that's just going to make for a sloppy fight. I think Jordan Santos might win round 1. Ozzy Diaz coming off a knockout, might be a little bit tentative, but I think the second he kind of gets going, gets the dog in him, he also has a reach advantage here as well. So I think this is just going to be very close. I think a 29-28 probably. I'm going to have to pick Jordan Santos here only because I think he also has the wrestling advantage to some degree, but I don't think a plus 3.5 bet on Ozzy Diaz is crazy. I don't think the lines are out yet, but I might even place that. I'm not too sure. So yeah, I think this definitely gets close. Definitely a 29-28 in my opinion. I'm going to go with Jordan Santos just because he has more paths to victory with the wrestling. I think he can get a takedown here and there. I think the striking is just going to get super sloppy, just kind of be a slugfest and just see who lands more, who lands big, if anyone can get wobbled or anything like that. So yeah, like I said, I think he'd be close. I'm going to pick Jordan Santos to be the pick. Definitely bet him. I think I'm more likely to bet Ozzy Diaz plus 3.5 than bet Jordan Santos money line in this matchup, but take that how you will. Next fight up, we got Mairon Santos versus Francis Marshall. This is going to be a great one as well. Mairon Santos, 14-1, pretty big prospect in the UFC right now. Had that good debut against Khan Ofli where he knocked him out in the second round. And then Francis Marshall, also a very well-rounded prospect. Decent striking, also has pretty good wrestling as well. He has 2 losses on his record, which are to William Gomes, who, I don't really want to talk about William Gomes right now, to be honest. And the other one is to Isaac Delgarian. And Isaac Delgarian's super legit. 7-1, should be 8-0. Definitely did not lose to Christian Rodriguez, but yeah. And now he's fighting Mairon Santos, and Francis Marshall could make this fight close for sure. I don't think dog money on Francis Marshall is anything crazy. I do think Mairon Santos is a little bit inflated when it comes to his odds. But at the end of the day, if you're picking this fight, you kind of have to pick Mairon Santos. When it comes to the striking, Mairon Santos, a bit Carlos Prates-esque, big power, really picks his shots, plots forward slowly, and it's really hard to back up Mairon Santos. I feel like he's going to slowly plot forward, and he's going to be super methodical with where he throws, and when he throws, he's going to throw big. So that's just kind of one thing when it comes to Mairon Santos. And then on the Francis Marshall side, like I said, decent striking, also decent wrestling, but I kind of feel like Francis Marshall needs takedowns to win this fight against Mairon Santos, and Santos' takedown defense is pretty good. So it's just going to kind of go around that. And the fact that, if Marshall just kind of starts desperately shooting and, Santos can see these takedowns coming like from a mile away, then this is going to it's going to become pretty ugly pretty quickly for Francis Marshall. So because of that, I'm going to pick Mairon Santos. Like I said, though, Marshall is well-rounded. If he does get those takedowns, he can definitely start picking up rounds on Mairon Santos. So nothing, I wouldn't say it's crazy to bet on Marshall here. The dog money is all right. I think Santos is a bit inflated, like I said, but at the end of the day, Mairon Santos has got to be the pick. All right, up next, we got Alex Morono versus Carlos Leal. Leal is still looking for his first win in the UFC. His last fight was his debut against Rinat Fakhretdinov, and that was in Abu Dhabi, where a lot of people, including myself, do think he won that fight. But the judges end up giving that to Rinat. It is what it is. And then on the Alex Morono side, he's on a 2-fight skid with a win before that to Court McGee. But Court McGee was 40 years old during that matchup. And, recently, all of Alex Morono's wins, that'd be Court McGee or Tim Means in 2023, just opposition that's just a lot older. Tim Means is retired now. Court McGee, like I said, was 40 at the time of that fight. And outside of that, he's looked pretty flat-footed. The Nico Price fight, round one, and then just gassed out next 2 rounds. Just gave Nico Price those next 2 rounds. He hasn't looked too good recently. And Carlos Leal, I think that, that Rinat fight, he lost on paper, but I actually think he did win that fight. He did a lot. I think his aggression, his forward pressure, his power, just doing more than Alex Morono. And I think he's going to want it more than Alex Morono here. So I'm going to go with Leal because of that aggression. I think that he really just put the pace on Morono, and I think Morono might crumble underneath that. But when it comes to betting, this line is absolutely insane. Carlos Leal, minus 850. Alex Morono has all the UFC experience in this matchup, and that's going to have to count for something. Although I do think Leal does get this one done. Minus 850 is insane for someone who's never won a UFC fight in his career yet. So, yeah, pick's going to be Leal. I think the betting line is insane. I think if you do bet this fight, maybe keep it to some props. But outside of that, let's move on to the next one. Next up, we got Brunno Ferreira versus Armen Petrosyan. Now, you're going to see Armen Petrosyan with an 8-4 record. That is a little bit deceiving. He is still actually really good on the feet. He's a really technical, really clean striker. Was doing pretty good work on Sharon Magomedov before he got that knockout. And to be completely honest, I think that fight was called a little bit early. I had a bet on Sharon Magomedov, so I couldn't care less when they called that fight. But realistically, that double spinning back fist, I think they could have given Armen a little bit of time to stand up there. It is what it is. But after that, Armen Petrosyan, man, pretty bad takedown defense. He is decent at scrambling back to his feet, but that takedown defense is a big hole in his game. And then you got Bruno Ferreira on the other side, nicknamed the Hulk. He's 12-2. He's coming off that submission loss to Abus Magomedov. Prior to that, his other loss is to Nursultan Ruziboyev in that round one knockout. But Ruziboyev been putting in work. Abus Magomedov, he had that wrestling kind of in his back pocket for this matchup. Now, Bruno Ferreira in this matchup against Armen Petrosyan is going to be the one with the wrestling in his back pocket. I think that Bruno Ferreira can grapple. He's not known to grapple, but we've seen him kind of just shoot when he's in a little bit of trouble on the feet. And like I said, Armen is a pretty clean striker. So Bruno Ferreira, if he does get in trouble, I think he can wrestle here, which is why I'm going to pick him. I mean, like all the dangers on the Ferreira side, he can wrestle to kind of win points. He has the power to knock out Armen Petrosyan, who's coming off a knockout loss, and his striking is unorthodox. So while Armen might be the more technical striker, definitely the better one on paper, Bruno Ferreira can just start throwing wild, throwing haymakers and land something on Armen, just kind of fuck him up with a bunch of pressure. So that's always there. So I'm going to pick Bruno Ferreira. He is the public underdog. I know some people don't like that, but me personally, I think that, yeah, he can get some takedowns in here to swing rounds his way. I think he can be unorthodox. The reach is essentially the same, but, I mean, Bruno Ferreira is like 5'10" to Armen Petrosyan 6'3", so Ferreira with the sneakily long reach, which could also be a little bit deceiving to Armen Petrosyan within the octagon. So I think Bruno Ferreira can get this one done. I think he can land big. I think he goes back to his knockout ways. I think he gets this one done probably in the second round. All right, now up next we got Joshua Van versus Rei Tsuruya. Got the Battle of the Asians here, and I'm all in on Joshua Van here, and I'll tell you exactly why I'm all in on Joshua Van. Now, we saw Joshua Van fight Cody Djorden in his last fight, and you kind of saw Cody Djorden. He knew his path to victory was with the wrestling, and you got Rei Tsuruya here, who is primarily a grappler. So you're like, okay, Rei Tsuruya does have the similar path to victory. That is potentially true, but Joshua Van does have good enough takedown defense to, make it tough. Maybe early on, like in the Cody Djorden fight, first round, that probably could go to Rei, especially if he goes all in on the wrestling. Just kind of shoots. That can definitely go to Rei in the first round where, he gets Joshua Van out when he's fresh. But can you do that? Can you maintain that Merab level pace for 3 rounds? And, with Joshua Van, he doesn't need you to be fully tired to stop those takedowns. He can stop the takedowns. It's just obviously when they're both fresh, his takedown defense isn't perfect. So I think Rei Tsuruya can get him down there early in round 1. But as this fight goes on, man, I think it looks almost exactly the same as that Cody Djorden fight. Rei Tsuruya can't get takedowns in rounds 2 and 3, and Joshua Van starts absolutely beating the fuck out of him on the feet in rounds 2 and 3 with that absolutely insane 8 strikes landed per minute, insane volume. He's just gonna beat up Rei Tsuruya the second those takedowns can be done. And Rei Tsuruya's last fight against Carlos Hernandez, he won a unanimous decision 29-28, but he did drop that third round, and I just feel like if he's not fresh to kind of absolutely dominate Joshua Van in the grappling for the first 2 rounds, which I don't think, if I have to bet, I don't think he can do that. I think he's going to be able to do it for a round, but I think after that first round, Joshua Van's takedown defense is good enough for when both these guys are a little bit fatigued, Joshua Van's going to be able to stop those takedowns. So I'm going to think that this goes very similar to that Cody Djorden fight. I like Joshua Van here. Let's move on to the next one. Next fight on the card, we got Curtis Blaydes versus Rizvan Kuniev. Kuniev is making his UFC debut after a Contender Series win. Prior to that, he was fighting in the PFL. He fought Hernan Ferreira, if you remember. What was it? Francis Ngannou's last fight, that was against that giant. That was Hernan Ferreira. That's someone that Rizvan Kuniev has fought, but it got overturned to a no contest because he had like a million steroids in his system at the time. So he is a steroid user. Well, he was a steroid user. Now he is no longer a steroid user. And I just feel like Curtis Blaydes in this matchup, he's got all the experience. Curtis Blaydes is going to be better. We know Curtis Blaydes has the wrestling. He doesn't really go to the wrestling as much, but he does have it. And then obviously, the takedown defense is a little bit meh. But I also think that, Curtis Blaydes was able to get that win on Jalin Almeida. Almeida did dominate him the first round, though, but then that second round went a little bit weird for Almeida. And I think if he can kind of give Almeida a little bit of problems, Rizvan Kuniev should be no problem for him. Rizvan Kuniev is going to throw these looping overhands, just try to get to wrestle him. And I think Curtis Blaydes can, catch him on the way in pretty easily. I don't think Kuniev is going to be super quick or anything like that. And yeah, I see Curtis Blaydes knocking Kuniev out in this matchup. But, Kuniev's UFC debut, I'm surprised they even gave him Curtis Blaydes. Maybe there's something I don't know. But from the tape I've seen on Rizvan Kuniev, not super impressive at all. I'm going to go with Curtis Blaydes. More proven, more experience. Let's move on to the next one. All right, now to kick off the main card, we got Bobby Green versus Mauricio Ruffy. I'm going to go with the fighting nerds here. I'm going with Mauricio Ruffy. He's going to win this one. Now, Ruffy, he is a sniper, and bro, Bobby Green's chin is absolutely gone. He had that brutal knockout against Jalen Turner, the one where they just wouldn't stop the fight. His last fight, he lost to Paddy Pimblett by submission, but Bobby Green can be chin. He was chinned by Drew Dober. And yeah, I feel like with Mauricio Ruffy, man, Ruffy is an absolute sniper. We saw what he did to James Yontop, and he did lose that third round, which is something interesting. His cardio, did not hold up against James Yontop in that third round. Yontop picked it up on him. But in those first 2 rounds, Ruffy was, timing those shots, sniping James Yontop, and Yontop is just one of those chins, man, that they just won't go down. And in that fight, I mean, if you look at Yontop's career, he's never been knocked out. In that fight, there was multiple instances where, he should have been knocked out, but the fight kept going. Now, Ruffy doesn't get the knockout. He also maybe lets his hands go to kind of get the finish, doesn't find it, and that tires him out potentially. But the cardio for the third round is something interesting on the Ruffy side, but I just think, man, he's going to find Green's chin. He found Yontop's chin. Yontop's chin is just way too strong and kind of just held up, but he found his chin. He's going to find Green's chin in this matchup, and I don't think Green can eat shots like James Yontop can. So Ruffy probably finds this one, probably gets it done, maybe first or second round. And yeah, let's move on to the next one. Up next, we got Amanda Lemos versus Iasmin Lucindo. Now, Lucindo's coming off that close win against Marina Rodriguez, and Amanda Lemos coming off that submission loss to Verna Jandiroba. And in Lemos's career, the one thing you're noticing is that she does have that hole when it comes to her takedown defense. Yasmin Lucindo is also 23 years old, Lemos is 37 years old. So there's a huge difference in the age here. Lucindo, the much, much fresher fighter. Lemos kind of at the end of her career right now. Prior to the Verna Jandiroba loss, she did beat Mackenzie Dern. So that was something she did in 2024. And then before that absolute destruction loss to Willie Zhang in that title fight on the Sean O'Malley versus Aljamain Sterling card. But in this matchup against Yasmin Lucindo, it's just going to come down to the fact that I think Lucindo is going to be 23 years old and just doing a lot in the octagon. Lucindo's going to shoot takedowns. I think she did that on Marina Rodriguez. And obviously Rodriguez, the worst takedown defense I've ever seen in my life. So Rodriguez doing decent on the feet, but Lucindo had the fight IQ to go get takedowns there. I think this one similarly, she's going to throw a bunch of volume and she's going to have the fight IQ to shoot takedowns on Amanda Lemos. I think the timeliness of those takedowns is probably going to swing this one her way. So I'm going to say Yasmin Lucindo gets this one done, probably by a decision. Now, this next fight I'm really looking forward to. We got Jalin Turner versus Ignacio Bahamondes. I've been looking forward to the next Bahamondes fight since that performance against Manuel Torres at the Sphere. Prior to that, he did get a head kick KO on Christos Giagos as well. And, against Jalin Turner here, man, I feel like Ignacio Bahamondes, his takedown defense is pretty good. Jalin Turner, on the other hand, both these guys are like really tall, really lanky. Turner is a little bit more well-rounded when it comes to the offensive side of his wrestling game, but I mean, both these guys realistically primarily looking to strike. Both these guys normally have the reach advantage on their opponent this time around. They both are listed as 75.5 inches of reach on Tapology, so literally similar. Both these guys, like I said, are super lanky, super long, normally are used to having the reach advantage. When it comes to who uses the reach better, I think Bahamondes uses his reach better. I think he moves better. I think his footwork is a little bit better as well. I also think that Bahamondes has kind of shown just better fight IQ and better heart throughout his fights. We saw Jalin Turner in that Renato Moicano fight. Thought he got the knockout, and then Moicano just comes back, absolutely just demolishes Jalin Turner once he comes back. Prior to that, he did get that knockout on Bobby Green. That was one of the most brutal things I've seen. But he beats Bobby Green. And yeah, I mean, look, Jalin Turner's losses are solid losses. Dan Hooker, Mateos Gamrot. So yeah, if you're kind of picking Jalin Turner based off that, I think it makes total sense. But I mean, I think this is going to be a striking fight. I think that when Jalin Turner is fighting from behind, I think he struggles a little bit. And I just see Ignacio Bahamondes, just settling in, using his range better than Jalin Turner is. And yeah, just kind of using a lot of kicks, better footwork. I think if Jalin Turner does shoot any takedowns, I don't think they're good enough to take Bahamondes down. I think his takedown defense is pretty good. So yeah, I mean, I just think that overall Bahamondes is going to start pulling away in this fight. I'm pretty high on him. I think he does find a finish, to be honest, maybe second or third round finish. But yeah, I think Jalin Turner probably looks good early on, but I think as this fight goes on, you're going to see Bahamondes pull away. Now, in the co-main event, we got Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. This is going to be a really, really tough fight to break down, to be honest, because Justin Gaethje is coming off that, that knockout to Max Holloway, the one that, everyone saw UFC 300. And it's just insane to me because I don't know if you saw some of the footage of Gaethje after that knockout, but that's one of those fights where you just take a ton of damage, ends horribly, almost similar to the Gaethje versus Tony fight that went 5 rounds, and the ref just waved it off late in that 5th round where Tony Ferguson just took an insane amount of damage. And guess what? Tony Ferguson has never looked the same since that Justin Gaethje fight. So super, super tough fight to break down, in my opinion. You have Rafael Fiziev, on the other hand, has not fought in 18 months. On a 2-loss skid to Gaethje, then Gamrot. And then after that, torn ACL, and now he's coming back after 18 months. And I mean, he was probably ready, but no like specific camp for Gaethje. Kind of short notice, 18 months, ACL surgery versus Justin Gaethje's coming off that brutal knockout. I mean, it's just super tough to kind of figure out, okay, what are these guys going to look like? Gaethje has those strong low kicks. What are those low kicks going to do to Fiziev's leg post that knee surgery? It's just an insane fight to break down, in my opinion. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pick Justin Gaethje because I think the 18-month layoff is super tough for Fiziev, the knee surgery as well. And like I said, those low kicks specifically that Gaethje lands really hard on those legs, I think that can give Fiziev a bunch of problems here. But I mean, outside of that, I do like the fact that, Gaethje took a bunch of time off. That fight was 10 months ago, the one where he got knocked out from Max Holloway. So I'm glad he took almost a year off to kind of get himself back together. Hopefully that saves his chin. But I mean, there's a chance Gaethje goes into this fight with no chin. Fiziev kind of drops him, gets him out of there. But I mean, prior to that, he got that head kick KO on Dustin Poirier. So I think Gaethje still got it, to be honest. I'm going to pick Gaethje to win. The 18-month layoff and the short notice and the knee surgery, I think, kind of outweigh the damage of Justin Gaethje that he's taken in his career up until now. But like I said, man, this is going to be a really tough one to break down. It could go either way. If Gaethje goes out there and gets knocked out, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm definitely not going to be betting on this fight. Now, this is the main event that a lot of us have been looking forward to, especially a lot of us on the Alex Pereira side that just kind of want to know what he's made of when it comes to fighting someone with the wrestling pedigree, with the ability to kind of have that wrestling in his back pocket like a Magomed Ankalaev. Now, you guys have probably heard this a million times by now. Magomed Ankalaev is not a wrestler. People are just saying that, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, sure, 100%. Magomed Ankalaev in his last few fights, like at the Rakic fight, also, he's not this like all-out wrestler that you kind of think of when you read his name, for sure. I'm not going to bore you with that stuff, but at the end of the day, he does have the threat of wrestling, and can Alex Pereira stop it? My pick for this fight is going to be Alex Pereira, and to be honest, potentially I'm picking with my heart here. That's very, very possible, but I just do think that, Alex Pereira, he's going to be able to knock out Magomed Ankalaev. Now, Ankalaev has decent striking, and he has the wrestling threat, and we know what this equals. This always just equals the same thing of strikers sometimes freeze up when it comes to the takedown threat. They're overcommitting on stopping the takedown, and because of that, their striking is freezing up, and the wrestler is able to throw and land quite a bit on the feet. That could potentially happen here, but Alex Pereira's kickboxing is just super high level. We saw in Magomed Ankalaev's draw against Jan Blachowicz that Jan Blachowicz was able to chew up his legs. I think Alex Pereira is going to have to have seen that and come prepared to chew up Ankalaev's leg. If there's one person with better low kicks than Jan Blachowicz in this division, it's Alex Pereira. And I don't think there's anyone in the UFC with better low kicks than Alex Pereira. So I think Alex Pereira with those calf kicks, chew up Ankalaev's leg. I think that's going to really affect Ankalaev's ability to get those takedowns. And I think over 5 rounds, man, Alex Pereira is going to find Ankalaev's chin, put him out of there. So big test for Alex Pereira. We're going to see what he's made of. Me personally, even as an Alex Pereira fan, I'm hyped to kind of see if he can take on this wrestler. I think this fight had to happen. I think this fight needs to happen. Alex Pereira is on top of the game. I'm hoping he can keep this one standing, hold this one down, get the knockout. I think he does find it. And yeah, Alex Pereira is going to be my pick, probably by knockout, maybe in the 3rd or 4th round. And that does it for all the picks and predictions for UFC 313. Big pay-per-view card this weekend. Really excited to see how this one goes down. Excited to see if Alex Pereira can handle the wrestling of Magomed Ankalaev, at least the wrestling threat of it, that be. And yeah, man, if you guys want to check out our premium bets, it really helps support the channel. I know a lot of you guys might be watching our short form content on YouTube and Instagram, so it really helps support the short form content as well. It's $20 a month. You get our betting picks for every single UFC card. You can check that out on kopicks.win. We have been doing pretty well all time. I'm super transparent with the results every week. You can see what we're doing week to week. 2025 has been a shaky start for a premium. It is what it is. We're going to keep following our process that we know works. We're going to see what happens for these upcoming cards. And yeah, let's get our bets up for UFC 313. Good luck to everybody. And once again, if you do want to check out premium, check out kopicks.win.